Leader of the Oath Keepers, Stewart Rhodes, sentenced to 18 years in prison because the government is throwing a hissy fit and prosecuting their political enemies. And this is a pretty serious deal because they're sentencing Stewart Rhodes at the same level as other terrorists, as other people who've done really horrendous things, not been involved in a riot that lasted several hours at the Capitol building that they have turned into years of political propaganda to go after their political enemies. And so if you're not familiar with the Oath Keepers, we've talked a lot about them here as we've covered all of January 6th, but I want to show you a little bit more about Stewart Rhodes and who this person is, who's been sentenced to 18 years in prison. In fact, 18 years is what a lot of terrorists get. You get murderers in many parts of this country who've killed other people who don't get 18 years. You get actors who shoot and kill women, accidentally or not, who don't serve any jail time at all. 18 years for Stewart Rhodes. Now, Stewart Rhodes is seen here. This was a photograph from many years ago. I think this photograph was taken in Arizona. And what's so interesting about this is Stewart Rhodes is standing next to this woman. I don't know who this woman is. What's going on here? It looks like it's an Oath Keepers event. But look who's here right next to him. Oh, look who that is. Ray Epps. Interesting. Do we know Ray Epps? Oh yeah, we do. He's that person who showed up on the FBI's most wanted list. Remember this one? Right here. Ray Epps. Photograph number 16. Right outside the Capitol. Right there. And this post is still online on their Twitter account. And Ray Epps was on the most wanted list, not just for being there, for violence at the Capitol. You know who was not violent at the Capitol? Stewart Rhodes. He was not even there, actually. So he was not on this list, but Ray Epps was. Ray Epps, you can see here, we have some more background on this. This is a post from an events calendar from an Oath Keepers meeting. And this is the actual post from the Oath Keepers meeting. This is where I got the photograph from. Stewart Rhodes, leader of the Oath Keepers at Hometown Buffet back in Arizona. And Ray Epps is standing right next to the guy. So Ray Epps is a former Oath Keepers, but he has not been involved in any criminality, no criminal charges. Here's a close-up, and there's the source video where Ray Epps came from. And if you're unfamiliar with some of these videos, you know that Ray Epps did this. Okay, there's no video of Stewart Rhodes doing this. We haven't heard from him saying things like this the day before.
Tomorrow, we need to go into the Capitol.
I didn't hear Stewart Rhodes say that.
Tomorrow? I don't even like to say it because I'll be arrested.
Well, let's not say it.
We need to go. I'll say it.
All right.
Say it,
We
Ray.
need to go in.
Shut the fuck up, Boomer.
Say it, Ray.
President is done speaking. We are going to the Capitol where our problems are. It's that direction. Please spread the word. All right. Okay, but one more thing.
Yeah, so can we go up there? No?
When we go in,
Are we going to get arrested if we
leave
go
this
up there?
Okay, so Ray Epps is seen all over the place. Here's the other video with him right when the first breach happens. I don't see Stewart Rhodes anywhere. Do you see Stewart Rhodes? Does anybody see Stewart Rhodes in here? No, that's not Stewart. No. None of those people are Stewart Rhodes. Don't see Stewart Rhodes over here. He didn't push that over. None of that was happening. Oh, that's not Stewart Rhodes either. So very curious. I don't see him anywhere in that video. I wonder if he's in any other videos that are percolating out there, like maybe this one. This was an event from Arizona with, of course, Stewart Rhodes leading and marching down with the Oath Keepers in a parade in Arizona. Now they're playing bagpipes there, and you'll see Stewart Rhodes is right there. Look at Stewart. What's he doing there? Oh, he's walking with the Oath Keepers. They're doing a bagpipes parade for one of the fallen. And look who is walking right next to old Stewart Rhodes. You see that right there? Oh, it's Ray Epps again. Oh man, that is so weird. Now, of course, this was a massive conspiracy that Stewart Rhodes was involved in. That's why he's being convicted of these crimes, is because of his involvement in the Oath Keepers, his involvement in an insurrection with this group. But Ray Epps was also there the day before and the day of on the FBI's most wanted list. And here he is with Stewart Rhodes at another event right behind him, right there. There's old Ray. So certainly the FBI is aware of that. Appropriate for Stewart Rhodes' sentence today. Pause for a minute. All right, so Stewart Rhodes is there. Ray Epps right behind him. Longtime member of the Oath Keepers was hanging out with them doing marches all over the place. But the day of the Capitol, he was there and no repercussions have come his way. So that's the background. Now, for some reason, Ray Epps has been immune this entire time. We know that he was on the most wanted, most violent list. He also went into the Capitol. He actually did go in. If you read his deposition, which we've done here, we read the whole thing on video. It's right here. We've talked about this multiple times. You have a short also. He went into the Capitol, and the idiots who were doing the deposition of him really tried to get him to not say that thing, but he did. And the way that even the transcript was conducted in the deposition was so poor, it's like they tried to cover the whole thing up. But read it. You can see it's clear as day. Did you go in? They asked. He said, yeah, I went in. I saw somebody was injured and then I was blah, blah, and whatever. We can't see the video because they're not releasing the video. So he was requesting and demanding violence the day before, seen on multiple camera angles, being violent, throwing flags into other people and doing other things. FBI confirmed he was violent until they found out he was one of their own, went into the Capitol, but no criminal charges. In fact, got 60-minute puff pieces. Instead, they're prosecuting people like Stewart Rhodes, who wasn't even in the Capitol or physically there on January 6th. Wonder why that is. Very curious. Now, here, this is some backstory on what happened over from the AP. They say 18 years. Now, they're telling us it's seditious conspiracy, which is one of the dumbest charges as we've seen here. It doesn't even hardly mean anything. Conspiracy is such a broad term that you can use it as an umbrella to envelop basically anything. And let's see what they've done here. Oath Keeper Stewart Rhodes, sentenced Thursday. Rhodes, age 58, first person that was convicted of seditious conspiracy, first to receive his punishment. And remember, we spent a lot of time on the Proud Boys case here, so they are going to be looking at very similar sentences here for all of their egregious misconduct, right? In a first for the January 6th case, the judge agreed with the DOJ that this should be punished as, quote, terrorism. Terrorism. They didn't even bring any weapons, which increases the recommended sentence under the guidelines. That decision could foreshadow lengthy sentences later down the road for people like Enrique Tarrio, who've also been convicted of the charge. Rarely used charge. And so I want to go through the actual proceedings, courtesy of our friend Roger Parloff. And we're going to fast forward through a lot of it because a lot of it's very technical and very mechanical. You can read the full thread, but they're talking about the different levels in federal guidelines and bouncing around between the two of them. Attorney Phil Linder, who is up speaking in front of the judge in the Oath Keepers sentencing, speaking on behalf of Stewart Rhodes. He says, Your Honor, before you conduct a sentence here, my client, I would like to explain the following. Your Honor, this court has sat through 3 jury trials. You've read all the pre-sentence reports and you have a good grasp of evidence as you see it. There's no magic witnesses that I can bring to change your mind, and I want to be clear at the outset of this. I think what happened on January 6th was deplorable. However, the government wants you, Your Honor, to sentence my client, Stewart Rhodes, out of fear that he'll do it again. They want to make Rhodes the face of January 6th. That's why they want a 25-year sentence. Nothing has even come close to that. 25 years is what they were asking for. Nothing even comes close. He says, Your Honor, go back to the election in November. Let's rewind the clock. Rhodes is as upset back then as are millions of Americans. He's not alone. And Rhodes didn't plan events in November or December or January 6th. He didn't plan any of this stuff. He's a participant. They want to say Rhodes caused this, but Rhodes did not cause this. Now, the court and the public need to look at who caused this. It wasn't Stewart Rhodes. They can blame a lot of other people. They can say Trump did it. They can say Mayor Muriel Bowser did it by declining Trump's request to bring in the National Guard. She sent a letter on May 5th, don't you dare bring anybody into my city. Why didn't the Sergeant at Arms do more? Why does Stevenson, formerly Capitol Hill Police, why does he say that there were security concerns that were lacking? But it wasn't Rhodes. Maybe they should look at the FBI and their dozens, if not hundreds of informants that were embedded. They stipulated in the Proud Boys trial that there were 8 government informants in the Proud Boys trial. Remember, there were only 5 Proud Boy defendants. The defense thought that there were many more than that. 50 plus. It's just scratching the surface. Not only FBI informants, but HSI, Homeland Security, and others. So it wasn't Rhodes, obviously. He was a participant. He didn't create all of that, Judge. He didn't start the Million MAGA March, the Jericho March, or the J6. If he'd been called away, J6 would still have happened. And so the government here wants to put a face on it. They want to put a face on this event. Put it on Trump. Put it on the right-wing media. Put it on politicians. But Rhodes, don't put it on my client. He was just a participant. He didn't create it at all. There were 400 than 50 people who've been sentenced here, Judge. 17 people. Only 17 have gotten more than 60 months. Peter Schwartz, he got 170 months. But why, Your Honor? Why did he get such a high sentence? He had 38 priors, and he assaulted police officers. And priors are aggravating. If you have a blank slate, that looks very good. If you've got 38 priors, it doesn't look good. Tom Webster, Judge, got 120 months, and he assaulted police. And Guy Reffitt, he got 87 months. Now, the assaultive person is the dangerous person, not the person who runs at the mouth and riles people up, Judge. So if you give Rhodes 25 years, does it box the court into giving the cooperators 15 years? The U.S. Attorney Nestler, he says that Patrick McConaughey and Webster and Albuquerque Head, they were convicted of violent assaults, but he says none of those were conspiracy, and all the previous seditious conspiracy cases involved people plotting to kill Americans, okay? Plotting to kill Americans is when these cases have been previously brought. Rahman, Khan, Al-Tamimi, Battle, Ford, Batiste. That's what these charges were appropriate for, not for a 4-hour riot in the Capitol building. Rhodes didn't plot to kill Americans, Judge. Rhodes has no criminal history. And so, Your Honor, with all of that, I'd ask for a sentence of less than 60 months. Sentences of more than 60 months have been reserved only for those who have engaged in assaults. And I'd ask that people not sentence Rhodes out of fear, but for how his actions fit into everything that happened that day. He says, Your Honor, my client would like to say some words on his own behalf. Stewart Rhodes stands up. He says, Your Honor, I'm going to start today by saying I am a political prisoner. Like President Trump, my only crime is opposing those who are destroying our country, using protected speech because of systemic violence of the left to shut down the speech of Trump supporters. This started at the Trump inauguration. We started protecting vulnerable Trump supporters from attack by Antifa. None of them was ever prosecuted to my mind. Obviously, seditious conspiracy is trying to stop the transfer of power to Trump. We've protected people outside Trump rallies from Antifa. Antifa likes to have unarmed victims, and he's giving several examples of those. We stepped up across the country to protect the unarmed or the elderly back to their vehicles. Shouldn't have to do that in this country, but we do. And he says there's more examples. There's one in Berkeley. There's one of a transgender Trump supporter who was being attacked. We stepped in. We did so peacefully, and we deterred Antifa. That's been our focal point. Unlike the characterization of the Southern Poverty Law Center, our people are non-violent, Your Honor. We have zero record of actual use of force, and we deter other groups, unlike the Proud Boys, who seek out street violence. Your Honor, in D.C., we did many security operations without incident, without a hitch. You give our people the option to wear helmets and body armor because Antifa stabs people. That's why we do it, because they throw bottles and other things at us. But on January 6th, I did not go inside, nor did I expect anyone else to. I'd just spoken at Latinos for Trump at a rally about a block north. When I was standing at the northeast corner of the Capitol, that's where the next event was going to be. It was going to be for Ali Alexander. Kelly Meggs and her team was escorting people from the Ellipse to Ali Alexander's event. And my concern was that they would get caught up in the turmoil outside the Capitol. So I wanted to make sure that they didn't get caught up. That's why I said, if anyone is still not on duty, come to us. When they did come to me, they said they'd gone inside, and I said that was stupid. Mr. Green was actually in charge of assigning the teams that day. Rhodes continues, he says, I never take personal leadership unless I have no choice. Green is retired police officer. I try to put good men in charge and trust them to do the right thing. On J6, I saw a problem. I saw a riot was happening, and I didn't want our guys to be a part of it. So I said, come to me. I wanted them to be with Mr. Green and me to keep our guys from being caught up in that. Josh James was with the other team protecting Roger Stone, and I didn't want them to be caught up in this. No Oath Keeper took part in any of the fighting. No Oath Keeper punched anyone or kicked anyone or pepper sprayed them, struck them with the stun gun, nothing. The worst thing an Oath Keeper did that day, Your Honor, Jessica Watkins pushed in the Senate hallway. She was leading her own little militia, not with us. And another one was Josh James. He lost his military bearing, and none of us caused that. I feel sorry for the police who testified yesterday, but none of us did that. It's bizarre to hear all of that. I find it offensive, frankly. This has been a surreal experience, says Stewart Rhodes. I can't even imagine. I feel like I'm the lead character in Kafka's The Trial, and says, Your Honor, I can't even believe that we're being called white supremacists here. I find that very offensive. It's all meant to smear the Trump supporters and to link them to the KKK, which was a Democrat organization, by the way. Rhodes says the Oath Keepers, the New York Times blames the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys. They hate us because we stop the violence in the street, and they don't like that. The judge cuts him off. Hey, Stewart, I'm going to ask you to wrap up. Don't want to hear you anymore. Nice, Judge. Very nice. The man you're about to throw away for 18 years. You don't even let him finish speaking. These people are just unbelievable. Can you let him finish? Rhodes says, yeah, I'll get to it. After I said we need regime change, Your Honor, I said I hope Trump won in 2024. Rakoczy took that out of context. Every J6er is a political prisoner, says Stewart Rhodes. All of them are being grossly overcharged. But this is not going to deter people, Your Honor. It's going to make people even more angry with the government. Rhodes is now talking about Texas versus Pennsylvania. The original suit in the Supreme Court says there's going to be constitutional problems and says, Your Honor, I cannot ignore the text of Constitution under my oath. Characterizing Trump supporters as racist or fools is not going to help. He says, Your Honor, I am the American Solzhenitsyn to expose the criminality of this administration. And he sits back down. Finished. The judge says, we're going to take a short break while I go and figure out how I'm going to eviscerate this man. Judge Maida comes back after a break. All right, well, I've been thinking through the sentencing guidelines, looking through them and so everything. So the guidelines tell me that I have a range of between 262 to 327 months. And he says, well, I'm going to begin with the disparities. The defense has rightly brought forward a compilation of other sentences. The most serious was 14 years. The next serious was 10. And both did involve serious insultive conduct. But those aren't useful comparators because this case involves conspiracy and it's seditious conspiracy. And he says, so I've considered two things. Seditious conspiracy sentences in other case, if you, as pointed out, have involved the actual targeting and killing of Americans. But Mr. Rhodes, you were convicted of seditious conspiracy, says you, sir, are a lawyer, and you understand what that means. But for those who are not, it's true neither Rhodes nor conspirators used a weapon against a police officer that day. But the Supreme Court has said a collective agreement presents a greater danger to the public than individual criminal conduct. And so your conspiracy is even worse than assaulting an officer. And the danger of a conspiracy and a seditious conspiracy can create a civil war and treason. And so seditious conspiracy is among the most serious of all crimes that an American can commit. Rhodes is like, the hell are you talking about? I wasn't even there. Offense against the people of the country. It's not confined to that one day, Stewart. Not actions of one day. It's a series of acts in which you and others committed the use of force, including potentially with weapons, as it transitioned from one president to another. So the potentiality. You didn't like the new guy. I get it. Let me be clear. We don't paint with a broad brush. Shame on you if you do. Just because you support the former president doesn't mean you're a white supremacist. You voted for the other guy, but you absolutely cannot have, screams this judge, a group of citizens who, because they didn't like the outcome and because they didn't think the law was carried out the way you think it should be, who are prepared to take up arms to foment a revolution. And that's what you did, Stewart. He's like, I didn't take up any arms. He says, those are your words, not mine. You're not a political prisoner. You're here because 12 jurors in D.C. who acquitted you of multiple counts found you guilty of sedition. It's a jury of your peers, he says. Right. Make no mistake. There are enduring impacts of January 6th. Now we all hold our breaths, says this hysterical judge, as an election approaches. He says, and there's another thing I have to talk about here. The heroism of the police officers who work to protect this democracy as we know it. They laid their bodies on the line. You talk about keeping oaths, Mr. Rhodes? Nobody more emblematic than those officers. Their heroism, their stamina, and their courage on one of the blackest days of our history. And he says, Mr. Rhodes, I've been giving this a lot of consideration. You're now 58 years old. You've got a wife. You've got 6 kids. You're an accomplished man. You served your country. You went to the University of Las Vegas, summa cum laude. Yale Law School. You clerked for the Arizona Supreme Court. You founded the Oath Keepers. He says, I don't consider it white supremacist or racist. They've been civic-minded in some instances. That's not in dispute. It's not my job to pass judgment on the Oath Keepers, Stewart, but to pass judgment on you. Many of these positive attributes of your organization have been turned against the government, and you've been involved in standoffs with the government, and I was chilled by your remarks. So this is a pattern. And you, sir, represent an ongoing threat to this country. And you're a compelling figure. And that's what makes you dangerous, Stewart. Everybody became because of you, only because of you. Everyone you conspired with was called to D.C. They're all victims of your lies and propaganda. That was not a good day for our democracy, but you celebrated it. And you said you regret not bringing weapons. And you are still denying the prior election. And so the judge is going on even longer than he gave him time to speak, it sounds like, because the judge wants the mic. When you find yourself in a bad place, Mr. Rhodes, the rest of us are too. We're all objects of your willingness to engage in violence, and we cannot have that in our country. And therefore, I find an appropriate sentence is to have you committed to the custody of the Bureau of Prisons for 216 months on counts 1, 3, and 7. 18 years. Mr. Rhodes, good luck to you. Adjourned. That's it. One of the more disgusting things we've ever seen on this channel happened today out of Washington, D.C., the D.C. Circuit Court. Stewart Rhodes is being prosecuted because of his political positions, more so than anything he actually did. Prosecuted for a fake narrative that they created that was never actually remotely even close to happening. This concept of an insurrection or sedition is all nonsense. But they needed it so that they could continue to go and castigate their political opponents for years to come. And they're doing it. And this is the first of a lot more to come. This is the first one of many. The Proud Boys are coming up next, and this is going to be an anchor on a spectrum by which all of the other seditious conspiracy cases are measured. So now the other seditious conspiracy cases that have been previously brought, as we learned, by people who were plotting to kill Americans, that standard, that threshold is now dropped a little bit. For whatever Stewart Rhodes did, wrote some pamphlets and had conversations and said some things that I don't endorse or encourage, but it's not seditious conspiracy. And this is a man who has no prior criminality, who's a lawyer, who's married, who served this country, who has done a lot of amazing things, but he is a useful enemy of the state. And so they're going to make him an enemy of the state, and there will be many more to come. And the judges here and the prosecutors here and the bloodlust that they all have as they just work themselves through these cases one after another and sentence somebody who basically did nothing to 18 years is reminiscent of other totalitarian states. And it's a disgusting thing. And if this happened in Russia, we would all be saying, how dare they do that to somebody like Navalny or whatever the Russians accuse Navalny of doing to interfere with the operation of the state. Stewart Rhodes is being crucified in front of America for good reason. They want to dissuade anybody from joining in the challenge against the government, and they want to make it hurt. And so this is as useful to them as a propaganda tool as anything. But can I just say, Stewart Rhodes did not bend the knee at all. Not even a little bit. The first words out of his mouth, I am a political prisoner, and this is a political prosecution, and he's dead right about it. And so there will be appeals, I'm sure of it, and there will be consequences for this type of behavior for the Justice Department. They are wrecking their legitimacy, and they are diminishing the power of the Justice Department by prosecuting these garbage cases. People are not going to trust them anymore, and their institution is going to fail even faster as a result. So that is the trial thread. Now, there was a lot of reaction here. Thomas Massey posted this. He said, Stewart Rhodes never even entered the Capitol, didn't commit acts of violence or destruction, yet he's going to be sentenced on Thursday for seditious conspiracy, obstructing an official proceeding, and tampering with documents, deleting stuff on his phone. Asks the weaponization of speech. Yeah, hopefully Congress does something about it. Stewart Rhodes will appeal, and there will be more consequences to this, hopefully, when the Republicans take over the presidency and the rest of Congress. But for the time being, Stewart Rhodes has been crucified right in front of America by the Biden administration, the DOJ, the Democrats who want to weaponize all levers of control in this country for their own ends. The future of America be damned. Of course, we'll continue to cover this.